So next step is we're going to put in the NeoPixels and the capacitors, and that then will finish the preparation of the board for normal soldering. The NeoPixels, you'll notice that there's a little dot on this side, there's also a little dot on this side, and that will go against the notch, which you can barely see, but we'll have a look at that in a minute. So the first thing I do is, with a square file, I don't know whether you can see that square, just clean out the holes very lightly. You don't need to apply much pressure. All I'm doing is basically deburring the edges. Okay. And then we're going to put in the NeoPixels. At first just lightly, so we can check that they're in the right place. Okay. So with your favourite tweezers, you want to align them so that there's a notch here. You want to align them so they just drop into place. They sometimes go in a bit wonky, so you just have to fiddle with them until they're square. And then you might have to just apply a little bit of force to make them sit into place. Oops. Just checking each time where the notch is, and of course the pins on the NeoPixel should line up with the pads. If it's too tight, I mean, it should be tight enough that they don't fall out, but not too tight that you really have to squeeze to get them in. If you do need to give it a bit more room, then take it out and file it out a bit more. I mean, basically the holes are designed so that there's a reasonable pressure fit, but not so that you have to really squeeze the NeoPixels in. Find is, when you've done this, how are we going to test it? Okay, last one in, hold on, one thing at a time. Okay, so the NeoPixels are actually driven from the controller via this track here, coming around the edge. Okay, so it goes in here, out here, in here, out here, in here, out here. So it makes a daisy chain all the way up the LEDs there. Now we don't want to fit the controller just yet. We want to fit the controller a bit later. So what we're going to do is, for the moment, we're going to take a controller with the pins already on it, which have been splayed so that it sits in there and doesn't come out. Now the important pins to make sure you're making contact are ground, 5 volts and RX. They're the only ones that are needed for driving the NeoPixels. So when you receive the controller, split the pins and the headers up. We don't need the headers just yet. Depending on what you want to do, maybe you don't need the for females at all. And all we're going to do is we're going to pop the two sets of header pins in their locations. I'm going to place the controller on top. Just getting some solder there to prop it up while I solder one pin on each side. And then I'm going to splay the pins out very slightly, just very slightly, and then check it can still go in. Yes. Okay, that's good. And then we'll solder down each side. Okay, and now if we do the first NeoPixel, so push that back down so it's sitting flat, and it's just a very light dab of solder on each of the pins. Now don't do all of them at once because you might need to take them out again and have a look at them. Now if you turn on the power you should see the LED flash. Nothing will happen at the beginning. Okay, but then it will come on. Okay, now it's colour recycling through. So that looks perfect. So then we'll take the power off again and we'll do the next NeoPixel in the daisy chain. 1, 2, 3, 4. Those didn't go well. Let's give them a bit more of a blob of solder. Let's try again. Okay, they're looking good. So all we're doing is building the daisy chain up from right to left and checking on each step that the NeoPixel is getting the command. Good, 3. It's not hard to do once you get the knack of it. I found that this, I'm going to do 2 this time. I will go crazy. Yeah. Those 2 don't want to go. Okay. So now we should see 5 of them lighting up. Okay. The reason this one went on first of all is that's part of its normal test routine. So when it fires up first of all, it does some self-tests. And then it detects that it's in test mode because it doesn't have a configuration. And says, okay, well, I'm going to go into test mode. So, okay, there we go. That's that step. Now let's put the little capacitors on for long-term stability, and all I'm going to do is here I'm going to fill up one of the pins with a little mound of solder on it, and I'm going to get our little 0805 capacitors. If you get through-hole capacitors, they work also just as well. There's absolutely no problem with using those. It's just I find these little 0805 capacitors do a perfect job for us. Okay, and the typical surface mount type of technique, we're going to get the component, heat the pad and slip it into place. Okay, we're just doing one side at the moment. Careful not to fill up the pins of the tube, because they're a real pain to empty out if you fill them up by mistake. Maybe I'll do that to show you. Maybe not. Okay. And then we're just going to go down and okay, so that's it. So that's the situation you'll receive if you go for the low fat option. So all of this is already done. Then you can get your controller. Remember the little button when you put it in will go here with a little notch, and you can power it up and see what happens. Okay, perfect.